There's two sides of the table when it comes to timing. There is an investor who might back an idea, and there's a whole timing question there. And many investors have a thesis in a given market for how things are going to evolve. So Bill Gurley famously was very interested in taking on something with the taxi industry with a marketplace, and he's an expert in both of those, and really wanted to back a company like Uber before Uber came around. And on the other hand, you have technologists that are working on something, and they might see a customer problem and try to find a solution. Or very often you might have an insight into the engineering side of the technology required to build the product. And that's actually very difficult to get right. And so you have timing from two different perspectives. And I just want to point out that on the founder side, it is actually very, very difficult to time this. And you can see this just by changing what you work on based on timing is very, very hard. And a good example, I think, is Airtable. So Airtable is pretty popular now as far as building into workflows and no code and automation. That company was founded in 2012, I believe. That is 9 years ago. So when it comes to how long it takes to take off, the hype that you see of when it's popular is well after somebody's worked on this. And another example is Superhuman. That was founded, I think, 7 years ago, 6 years ago. And they worked for 3 or 4 years with no hype just to make a really good product experience. And that is also a counterpoint to your point about distribution. So Rahul is a second time founder focused on product to make a good experience because email is a well known quantity. So people know what it is. So you don't need to prove the value or anything. You just have to make a better product experience. So when it comes to timing, though, there's a lot of different aspects to it. So I mentioned sci-fi early on, where you want to, why is sci-fi compelling? Sci-fi is compelling because the science aspect of it is grounded in reality, where you almost change one bit about the world, and then you project it forward and think, how will this be different? And that's really cool. So maybe it's rockets, maybe it's robots, maybe it's some kind of AI or the ability to travel in space or whatever it is. You have all these new technologies, and you see how to project them. And so, being good at timing, I think, requires predicting the future because of what is technically possible, but not here today, not evenly distributed. So there's even the very famous sci-fi author William Gibson said the future is already here, just not evenly distributed. And that's very true in terms of what's possible today, but is not everywhere out there. Um, there's I can tie these things together as well. So we have a robotic future of some humanoids that might help us, and that's really hard to imagine. But there's a company called Agility Robotics where Jonathan Hurst is the founder, and he is somebody that I met at Carnegie Mellon when I was getting my master's there, and he was getting a PhD working on legs, and that was 20 years ago that he was started to work on that. And now his company has legs and arms in a robot that you have this humanoid-ish robot that can fold into the back of a truck and then can unfold and pick up a package and carry it to your door with legs. And it's not here yet, right? So you've never seen that. So it's a product that I think they had a Series A or Series B, and so they're like pretty far along as far as the tech goes. And it's 20 years into Jonathan's experience of working on legged robots. And so what do you expect? Like that this stuff is easy? It's like, no, if it was easy, it'd already be done. And so this is something where timing just gets very, very difficult. But I think you can try to live in the future means that you project out what you see. Another valuable characteristic is to not dismiss things right away. So very famously, things that disrupt other things look like toys. And so it's not obvious that a social network for college students is going to make every newspaper go bankrupt. Like that, those two things are not obviously connected. And so you have to be very broad and general when it comes to how you explain these ideas. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You have to really understand how things might evolve in the future in order to have the optimism and confidence required to see those changes. There's so many examples of this. I think the best one in recent memory is Airbnb. When you think about the market for couch surfing, it's very easy to say, sorry, poor student, that is a good idea for you, but makes no fucking sense for anyone else. And then you think, well, actually, if you think about the underutilized space in homes and compare that in aggregate to all the hotel space, you have the ability for a network to clean up that experience and build something bigger than all hotels combined. And that is an enormous market. So you go from like a terrible idea to an amazing idea. And these combinations are really, really valuable to understand how this will project over time. And so if you want to get timing right, you kind of have to start predicting the future, which means you have to understand technology and you have to see where it might go and be creative enough to see it, but also optimistic enough to not dismiss things right away. I think the idea I'm struggling with now is around crypto, where people are talking about NFTs all the time. So non fungible tokens are essentially digital versions of some kind of art. And I'm struggling with it because it kind of goes counter to the internet. So the internet makes copying things free and easy, and that is a whole new distribution mechanism. So the idea of saying, well, no, we only have one of this and only you have it and it's really valuable actually doesn't make sense to me because it doesn't fit with what the internet wants. And so now you have competing technologist visions for the future. It's not, I think only art is something that you frame on a wall. It's that it goes counter to what I hope the internet brings. But I could be wrong because influencers and how people follow others online are changing so dramatically that it's one of these things where I need to get more creative in understanding what's there before I take action.